Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast. I'm Jessica Rapach, co-founder of Twin Legacy Solutions. Today, I'm excited to have Kent Summers on our podcast. He is the founder of Spinnaker Sales Group, and we're talking sales. So welcome, Kent. Thanks so much for being a guest on our podcast. I'd like to kick it off by just having you tell us about your company and what you do.
Sure, thanks. Thank you, Jessica. It's great to be here. So my name is Kent Summers. I'm a five-time startup veteran. My entire career was startups. I sort of had to do that because I'm not good at being told what to do. So I had to start my own companies. And after I sold my last company, I started volunteering as a mentor up at MIT, helping technical founders start their companies. I've been there for about 25 years, and I teach a course at MIT called Startup Sales, B2B sales for startups. I've been doing that since 2008. And in addition, I do some work at the other school up the river. I'm on the Harvard Business School HAE faculty and part of the Advanced Leadership Initiative at Harvard as well. So my whole life is about startups, and love when you're doing a startup, the good news is there's only two things you need to worry about: revenue and everything else. And I focus on the revenue. So I'm happy to be here today.
Amazing. And I'm sure there's plenty of startups that are going to be very excited to hear what you have to say about the sales side of the house today. So thank you for that. And thanks for being a mentor. I try to mentor where I can, and I think it's so impactful. Says a lot about who you are. So thanks for doing that.
Mentoring is a very powerful thing to do. It's very impactful, and it really clears your mind from worrying about when you don't have to worry about yourself and you just have to worry about somebody else. It really clears your mind to do what is often in somebody else's best interest, and that's a lot of fun to do.
Oh, absolutely. I get equal amount out of mentoring, especially I mentor the little ones. You mentor advanced adults in their careers, but
Yeah.
it's a very rewarding experience on both ends, and I think it helps us grow as humans in general.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. All right, let's jump right into some of the questions today. So the first question I want to ask you is, how often is a problem really leadership and not sales?
Well, that's a great question because it sort of intersects two things that I work and I care deeply about. They are two separate but equally important issues. Sales performance is binary. It tends to be. If a founder can't land the first few paying customers to validate product market fit and customer value, game is over. If the founder can't eventually figure out how to sell cost effectively, the startup will never scale. Problems with leadership performance tends to be less cut and dry, and it usually takes, in my experience, more time to develop and for those problems to become more visible. But they are equally, if not more, toxic to growth. Most sales issues can be fixed. Problems with leadership usually require more drastic measures, right?
Yeah.
So Rachel Turner, I think, says it best. Most founders double down on what makes them successful in the startup phase, and that's the wrong approach. The scrappy, do everything energy that got you to product market fit becomes toxic when you need to manage 50 people. So what got you here won't get you there. So founders that survive understand that personal growth and company growth are one and the same. And founders that fail to understand that usually result in a decision to leave the company for personal matters.
Nice. Now, as we talk about startups, there's a question I did want to ask you. When you talk about startups, because you've been doing this for a very long time, how many years in the business would you say is a startup company? So is it any company that's within their first 5 years you consider a startup, the first year? How do you define that?
Well, that's interesting. I don't really consider it to be a function of time. I see it as to be a function of conditions, right? And conditions meaning customers, revenue, the ability sort of to execute the business under their own power and control, right? In other words, it's a going concern that is sustainable versus still looking to get the flywheel going and still requiring outside support and so forth. So it's really more a set of conditions than it is a function of time. Some companies achieve those conditions in 1 year. Some companies never. Some companies take 10 years. especially in highly regulated markets. They take much more time to develop versus, open-ended and more competitive markets.
But you work with any company in any stage.
Pretty much. I'm pretty much the 0 to 5 million.
Okay.
That's kind of where I focus on sales.
Right.
My conditions are really around revenue and customer, and I focus on really the early stage customer adoption to 5 million or so in sales, because usually it's around that time that the founder has transitioned from founder-led sales to first sales hire to small team sales, and now they're ready to hire a VP of sales and sort of trust somebody else to run the sales engine for the company. And that's usually where I play in those more formative phases of growth.
Right. And I asked that because I was like, when should a CEO like admit that they need to outsource their sales coaching? It's for me specifically, I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah.
I have the military background, the leadership. I'm a go, go, go. If I'm not successful in like a month, I'm like, ugh, I got to figure this out. But like, at what point do you just say, you know what, I need to outsource this?
Well, so sales is expensive to get right, and it's really expensive to get wrong. So
Right.
when you start losing sales for reasons that have nothing to do with customer need or product capabilities, it's probably time to bring in outside expertise. But after you have confirmed product market fit, right? You do not want to hire a sales coach to watch the Discovery Channel with you. That'll get really expensive.
Right.
Okay. So, I think it's important to be mindful that your relationship with the sales coach demands brutally honest self-awareness and a growth mindset. So if you're not wired for introspection and spilling your guts, a coach may not be able to help you.
Yeah, you have to be coachable, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's advice. Okay, so a little bit more uncomfortable question. What's the uncomfortable truth about companies that really rely just entirely on their inbound sales?
Leads are the raw material sales, and relying on a single source of anything, including leads, no matter what the method, is just as risky as focusing all your sales efforts on a few winners that you're picking out of your pipeline that never emerge. So successful ventures employ a variety of inbound and outbound lead generation practices, and that tends to reduce the choppiness and increase the velocity of qualified leads, right? Both of those are key to consistent growth. So you never put all your eggs in one basket. You develop. There's a lot of companies that tend to be more resilient in uptimes and downtimes are getting leads from 4 or 5 different places, and they tend to take out a lot of the choppiness of the leads. And getting lead velocity is like really, really, because with absent having new qualified leads at the top of the sales funnel, what happens is people tend to hold on to deals in their pipeline for way too long. It's kind of like their past due date, and they hoping and wishing that they're eventually going to turn out with something when it's generally a slow no.
Right.
And you really have to flush those false positives out of your pipeline and get new leads in. And if you're not getting new leads, business tends to stagnate.
Now, is there a magic number of funnels that you should have? For example, we've heard of Meta, LinkedIn premiums, we have the AI lead gen, we have just referral-based outreach. Like, how many funnels should companies be targeting, you know?
You mean sources of leads?
Yeah, sources for lead. I'm sorry.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
How
yeah,
many
yeah.
sources
So
of
as
lead? Yeah.
many as you can. I mean, most firms usually start out by exploiting their personal networks. So when I sit down with a young company and maybe there's 5 or 10 people in the company, first thing I do is I have everyone sit down and think about, write down the names and the number of places or organizations or companies that they have personal relationships, right? And
Right.
everything is on the table. Church, school, college, clubs, whatever. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to exploit, and you're going to find out, do any of those relationships, are they 1 or 2 degrees of separation from your ideal customer profile? And you exploit those relationships. And but that's not sustainable. Then you start to develop more sustainable sources of leads, and the source of leads varies dramatically depending upon your product and your target market. Whether you're selling D2C or whether you're selling B2B or whether you're selling, whatever through channels or whatever. the rule of thumb is you always start with your customer and you work your way backwards. So you reverse engineer the path to them. And at some point you'll find out where their watering holes are, where their sources of leads are. And you really have to, that really is different depending upon the nature of your product or our customer is.
Right. Yeah, I love the strategy of sitting down at the table, your internal network starting there and kind of spanning out. We get a lot of people. So obviously we do like the AI lead gen. People come to us where they have no marketing strategy, like they haven't tried anything and they just want one thing. And what we always say is we can help you with some lead gen, but there's other things you should be doing. And we do kind of like refer them out to like, hey, you should try X, Y, and Z. Or they come to us because they're like, I spent, $5,000 last month on Meta and I didn't make any clients. Like, what do I do now? Well, we don't do Meta, but you could try that, but I think I see that as a point of contention in companies right now. It's either people are just relying on referrals or they're trying one thing, failing, and then going to the next thing. And I think what you're saying is you should just be trying it all at the same time.
Yeah, you just have to experiment. Everything's expensive. It's really expensive. If you think leads are expensive, try going without them.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And then it's your time,
Yeah, everything dries up. So you just have to experiment. You have to find, the watering holes of your customers, find out where they are, find out how to reach them. You have to experiment with the messages that get their attention. You have to do all that kind of stuff right? And I think, what I see in a lot of failure with lead generation, people put up a website and they have everything about their company, their product, their pricing, everything about their company is on their website.
Yep.
And what happens is that people find it and they get the impression that they have all the information they need to make a decision about buying your product. And that's exactly what they do without talking with you. And you lose sales right at the starting line, right? So too many people, so websites never close business, but they're excellent at preventing business from happening. And one way they do it
So true.
is overbuilding it. Right? The websites, you have to understand that your job is to capture people's attention, to pique their interest and make them interested in learning more by reaching out to you, where you can actually have a conversation and form a relationship.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is something that a lot of people get actually pretty upset with us. So they'll say when we're writing scripts, oh, please include my links to my costs, include a link to my website, include my LinkedIn profile, include this. I said, I'm not any of it.
Right.
Why? Why not? I want them to know. I said, no. You want to tell them enough to get in front of them. That is your goal. Your goal is not to teach everything on an email. Then they can go through it all without the explanation, without meeting you, without hearing your spin on it, your professionalism, what you bring to the table. I'm putting nothing in there. Let's get them on a call. You discuss your points in person. Oh, and then if they want to do another sales call or you want to have another conversation, you want to give them one hint of what you do next, cool. But why not a demo? Why not a conversation? Why don't you walk through it with them? Trust me, hearing it from you, understanding what you know and your knowledge and the way you say it and present yourself will sell better than your spreadsheet.
100%, Jessica. And there's, a lot of founders, and we'll get in. I think I'm down on that with some of your additional questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. So the next question leads into more marketing. Is that are sales becoming too dependent on their marketing to do their job?
Are they becoming too dependent? Well, so success interdependency between marketing and sales varies depending upon the product, the target customer, and the go-to-market strategy. For example, in a product-led growth, a PLG approach, marketing plays a much bigger role acquiring new customers and sales supports. But in an enterprise B2B sales model, sales carries most of the load, marketing supports. So in any scenario, the most successful ventures view collaboration between sales and marketing and mutual learning and support essential to growth. It really depends upon the nature of the business and the product. There's no sort of one size fits all advice there. It really is specific to the nature of the customer and the complexity of the product and so forth. Very, very different depending who carries most of the ball. You get into D2C sales, it's all marketing. it's all, the website, in that case, the website has to have everything because there's a buy button right there.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
And they have to be able to do that because they're only spending 10 or 15 bucks on a product, something like that. So,
Yeah,
it varies dramatically upon the nature of the product and the customer.
that's fair. And then, of course, I got to ask you some AI questions because most of our listeners come here to hear about AI. So, what sales skills will matter more than ever in an AI driven world?
Well, so let's talk about AI. I mean, every tech wave over the past 100 years, Jessica, collapsed the cost of certain tasks to nearly zero, right?
Yeah.
While at the same time elevating the value of human oversight and interpretation. So AI gives people sharper tools for what only people can do best, which is judgment, creativity, the freedom to dream, right? That's
Yes.
what we like to do.
Yeah.
Technology won't define the future of work. Leadership will. AI will continue to make things cheap and people precious. So our future is not man versus machine, it's man with machine versus man without machine, right?
Yes.
So to answer your question, AI augmentation, it gives salespeople sharper tools and the freedom to focus on what they do best, which is making judgment calls, being creative with solving customer problems, and building trusted relationships. AI can't do that.
I 100% agree. This has been one of our mottos from the very beginning, our mission as well. Humanizing AI, but also the human component, capitalizing on that, redirecting your resources, not replacing them. Um, that's the hype right now in any business. Oh my goodness, where is AI going to replace people? Is it going to take my job? People have all this skepticism about AI and its tools, and what our message and part of our message is like use AI to enhance your operations or replace some of those functions you really don't need the humans at and use those humans somewhere else to really enhance your operations and bring that unique perspective, their past experiences to really make your operations and your mission and your mission.
Yeah, the people that should be about AI are the people that are not experimenting with it right now. They should be most worried about it,
Right. Yeah,
right?
I
Because they
agree.
don't know what it is, and they're going to be competing against people that have their same job that have figured out how to use AI to their advantage, and they become much more productive.
Yep.
So there can is like I said, it's not it's people with AI versus people in the same role without AI. Guess who's
Yep.
going to win?
Right. Very good. All right. So the hardest truth most sales teams need to hear right now. What is it?
All right. Well, it's over reliance on sales tools, PowerPoint, all these to to kill and then drive customer traction and growth. Successful selling is P2P, it's not B2B. So put the tools away, get in front of as many conversations as you can. I see, a lot of people, they're reluctant, afraid of the pressure of sales or being told no or being turned down or whatnot. And they tend to avoid that and stick with their comfort zone, which is maybe adding more to the product or whatever. When the reality is you're not going to drive business until you get out there and get in front of people and start understanding what their needs are and helping them, with their job by purchasing your product. So put the tools away, quit sending emails, get out there, start pounding the street, meet as many people, spin up as many conversations as you can. You're going to learn a whole bunch, and you're going to get over the fear of failure and being told no.
I love that. I have seen that hand. So the mission of this podcast I thought would be to, help the community. Obviously, I hope it's helping the community get CEOs and directors to come to the podcast, hear what they're kind of deficient in, how other companies are handling AI issues that they're running into. But it's been very twofold for me, specifically in our company, because I get in front of people like you, experienced leaders, and I've learned way more than what I feel like I've given. Just learning what people are going through in their how they're mitigating that we're also facing and that I didn't even know were in the industry that are a problem right now. I'm taking back to my toolbox and saying, oh my goodness, how can we help these people?
Oh yeah, no, I get getting back to my mentoring experience. MIT has a team mentoring methodology. So we mentor startup founders in teams of 3 or 4. And the reason that mentoring is so much fun among, you know, helping them succeed is I learn something every day from one of the other mentors when I'm mentoring.
Right.
So it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been a founder my whole life, and I solve problems very differently than the senior retired vice president from DuPont Corporation, right? Sitting
Right.
right next to me.
Yeah.
So it's that crossing of experiences and skill sets that not only help the founder, but they create much stronger mentors alike. So that's why I think our team mentoring methodology at MIT has been licensed by over 140 organizations
Wow.
in 30 different now, is
Wow.
because not only is it volunteer driven, where you're not money at the problem, you're basically taking a lot of retired talent in a community and you're turning it back around to support the next generation of business leaders in a very worthwhile model. But it's everyone's still learning, and if you're still learning, you're having fun.
I feel like I actually, it's funny. I had a conversation with my grandfather the other day. He's 83 years old. And I asked, I sometimes just like to joke with him and say, hey, Pap, like, what can you teach me? Teach me. He goes, it's funny. You always asking me, these to give you some pointers in life and how do I get through it? How do I deal with things? And he goes, I'm still learning. I learned from you. I learned from my friends. He's like, I'm 83 years old. Whatever. What I want to tell you is no matter what you do, don't ever think you're done. Keep learning as much as you can and don't be too humble is essentially what he was trying to say. Be
Yeah,
humble, accept it. You're never going to be the best if you just think you know it all. So just open your mind, open your heart to anything anybody can give you, whether it's the trash man taking out your garbage
yep,
to the CEO that you go in
100%,
front of.
100%. There's a
Yeah.
big difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset.
Yes.
And being around somebody with a fixed mindset can get boring pretty quickly too.
Oh, 100%. Okay, well, Ken, listen, I have really enjoyed the conversation. I've learned a lot from the conversation as well. Before I let you go, where can people find you? Startups listening today, they need some coaching. Where can we find you to get some help?
No, thank you. I enjoyed the conversation, Jessica. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn or the internet. All you have to do is just Google Kent Summers, MIT, or go on, LinkedIn. I'm easy to find there. Also, I have a book on Amazon. You search Amazon for my name. It's called Startup Sales Field Notes. It works for professional salespeople as well as people that do not sell for a living, and helping them figure out how to make, how to land stuff like that. So I'm pretty easy to, I think, these days.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll be talking to you after this call about some stuff. So I appreciate it.
Awesome.
And to our listeners, thanks for listening in to the Future Proof Leader. And until next time, we will have a great day.